And you know what I did? I used my moment on finale to uplift Morgan and to put down Vince, but to uplift Morgan.
And I do love that Jimmy will still talk shit about Vince, although that's also in jest, I would like to believe. Good morning, everybody. Here for today's edition of the OCG Soapbox. I have a few topics I want to get on my soapbox and talk about. And, we're going to start with what I talk about most, usually Big Brother. There is a little bit more Big Brother tea that I want to cover, even though some old farts in the comments act like it's so bad to gossip about the players, since they want me to talk about the game, even though the game ended 6 weeks ago. There's no game left to talk about. The game has been talked about to death. I enjoy the drama, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Although this is not necessarily that dramatic, but Jimmy is in his feelings regarding Morgan. Jimmy took a few weeks off to really be low-key, and I appreciate it. It's what he needed to do. When Jimmy was first upset with Morgan because Morgan basically cut him off after they talked at the finale, even though Jimmy apologized at the finale for some things he may have said online. Since then, as we know, Morgan has gone around talking about how she doesn't want to associate with some past players from the game, I guess, even though there is a text out there of her saying fuck her cast, so she talks shit about her cast too. Jimmy's in his feelings, though, because he feels as though they need to have a conversation, a real conversation, and he has given Morgan time now since the game ended, which was my complaint against Jimmy, where Morgan was concerned, because Jimmy was in his feelings once Morgan blocked him, or not, I don't even know if blocked, but unfollowed him on social medias. And Jimmy was saying, well, Morgan did things that he was hurt about. That Morgan was saying some anti-gay things with Mickey during the season, the whole gay asp thing that happened on the live feeds. I think Jimmy was blowing that out of proportion. I called him out on that when that happened and said he needs to give Morgan time because the game just ended and she just got out of the game. He's been out of the game for a couple months. Well, he has given her time now. And they still haven't talked.
One of the things I was doing at finale was going around and apologizing to people that I owed an apology. And you know what I did? I used my moment on finale to uplift Morgan and to put down Vince, but to uplift Morgan. So I do feel a kind of way about the way she's acting.
And I do love that Jimmy will still talk shit about Vince, although that's also in jest, I would like to believe. I think Jimmy feels like he was a good ally to Morgan and Mickey. And well, he did do a lot of talking around the house, and he was trying to play a couple different people against each other. Game related, Mickey and Morgan did their own shit during the game. They were not loyal to everyone either. So I don't think they should be upset with Jimmy about that. And obviously Mickey's not. Mickey and Jimmy have talked things out. Morgan, however, seems to refuse to do that.
You know what? I went personal with Morgan. I apologize for it. She and Mickey went personal with me in the house. Mickey apologized for it. Only Mickey.
So Morgan's upset because as soon as she got out of the game, she probably heard some of the stuff Jimmy was saying regarding the game. Although by the last few weeks of the season, Jimmy was certainly talking good about Morgan's game, maybe even rooting for Morgan some weeks. He was certainly bitter when he first got eliminated against Mickey and Morgan, but he was defending them both by the end of the season. Now, Jimmy is saying that he had conversations with Mickey and that's why they worked things out and that he and Mickey apologized to each other, but Morgan has not apologized to him, even though he did apologize to Morgan.
I've said some things, I get it, I want to give her space, but it does upset me. Because I do love her. And I would love to have a relationship with her one day, but there's a conversation that needs to happen, and that can't happen if the channels of communication aren't open.
I think the problem here is that Morgan feels as though it doesn't matter to her, I guess. I guess that relationship doesn't matter to Morgan as much as it did actually matter to Jimmy. And I will say that while Jimmy did blow the whole gay ass thing out of proportion where Morgan was concerned, because it certainly was more so Mickey doing that mocking of Jimmy than Morgan, Morgan did go along with it, especially with the whole gay ass thing. She did go along with it. I don't know. Obviously, Morgan's like the it girl since the season ended, but it's her own doing. And she is the first one to say, I don't know why people talk about me so much, when she plays into people talking about her, because she will play into trolling the fans with the whole Vince stuff. She's done it multiple occasions. I think Morgan enjoys people talking about her. I think she enjoys the attention. And now here is Jimmy talking about her again. But I actually do think Jimmy's coming from a good place here, and Jimmy wants to fix that relationship. But it seems like that relationship was never important to Morgan. The only relationship important to Morgan is Vince. Like, I hate to break it to everybody else in the cast. She only cares about that relationship with Vince. You know, I talked about it yesterday and how Morgan just loves to talk about Vince on her streams with smiles on her face, even if they are supposedly not talking, even though Vince supposedly ghosted her and hasn't talked to her since. Some people disagreed in the comments, saying that this is just Morgan. She's just a pick-me. She gets obsessed with people. We did see that with Zach during the season when he was eliminated. She was still obsessed. Maybe she is just still obsessed with Vince, even though they are not talking, and always has a smile on her face when talking about them. So yeah, doesn't seem like she cares to fix that relationship with Jimmy. I guess it's similar to Mickey not reaching out to Ashley wanting to fix that relationship. Jimmy seems willing to talk to Morgan, but she doesn't seem willing to talk to him. Ashley feels like Mickey is the one that needs to reach out to her, not vice versa. As it stands right now, there's still a stalemate in both of those relationships. Now, I want to move on to talk about the challenge cruise that was set to sail soon, but might have been a big old scam. This is coming from the Showroom travel agency, who has put on these cruises in the past with CBS reality stars, MTV reality stars, and earlier this year had problems with a Big Brother cruise, and in the past have had problems with Big Brother cruises. The guy who's in charge of it is, I believe, Mike Gibson, who at one point during one of the cruises that Quinn was on from Big Brother 25, Quinn was talking about how this Mike Gibson fellow may have been harassing some of the women patrons of this cruise, and that some of the cruises in the past have been pretty damn rinky-dink. And so it doesn't feel like they put on these great cruises, but, you know, this is reality television, and this is someone trying to get these reality television cruises going. And how these cruises usually work is that the cruises, the travel agencies will pay these stars. You know, we see this with like the Impractical Jokers do their own cruise and have for years. The wrestler Chris Jericho has done his own cruise with other wrestlers and has for years. This is something like that, where the stars are supposed to get paid to be on the cruise to interact with fans, and then the fans pay for their tickets to go on the cruise and interact with these stars. Well, with the challenge this season, or at least the challenge stars that are supposed to be going on this cruise, the time had come for their cruise to set sail, and yet the stars never got paid. They haven't got paid, and so it seems like the cruise isn't happening, and staff of the cruise has not been told what's happening. It looks like a big old scam that Mike Gibson and his wife may be keeping the money, scamming all the fans out of it, and now the stars kind of look like they're in on it too, even though they're not. The stars are not in on it. They were left in the dark, kind of played for fools. I do think some of the challenge people maybe should have paid attention to the problems with the Big Brother cruises from this same travel agency lately. But I guess they did not listen to that. Yeah, this Mike Gibson fella seems like a real piece of work with the whole harassment of patrons on his cruises in the past. Now seemingly scamming out of this. He's a big boy, so maybe he's scamming money because his gut really needs the cash. I guess I don't know. I don't know what the problem was with the cruise. That's why it seems like a big old scam. I would say that if worse came to worse, he could have been the cruise ship, actually. It's kind of a real fucked up situation that fans seem like they were screwed out of this. Good old Wes from the challenge is trying to put information together, get all of the fans' information. Wes is a smart guy. He has a good business right now. I do believe he actually wants to help the fans and try and get the money back. I don't think this Mike Gibson and this Showroom Travel should want to mess with Wes. I do think he will do what needs to be done to either get the money or take Showroom Travel to court. Maybe Wes might even pay for some of the legal fees. I think Wes is pretty stand up and hardcore about stuff like this. So Showroom Travel and Mike Gibson may have messed with the wrong people. The thing is, though, the Showroom Travel is also promoting this other cruise for like the spring or late. Yeah, I think the spring, with both MTV and CBS players like Survivor, like Suri, Carolyn's supposed to be on it. And it could just be a big scam again. I will say that this Showroom Travel seems to be in Georgia, and they are being investigated now for possible criminal activity. So it seems like the challenge players and the fans have raised enough awareness to this that they've received enough calls regarding the issue and are working hard to return the calls, and that officials are working diligently with the contracted employees of Showroom Travel to gather as much information as possible. So if this was some sort of scam, the police seem to already be on it, so that's good. I just wish people would start paying attention more. There's so many scams out there. Like, the fact that this already happened with the Big Brother cruise earlier this year and other rinky-dink cruises that Showroom Travel has put on, I want you all, the fans of these reality shows, to really pay more attention when it comes to stuff like this. We all have our interests, whether it's reality television, sports. We all maybe want to be involved in communities more like this, but you gotta watch out for those scams. But even just more in general, in some of my past stints in retail, so many people get scammed. There's so many scams out there with gift cards. I was a cashier at one point, would have to deal with customers that would be on the phone with people and think they're like a representative from something else they purchased, and that they would have to purchase gift cards to give back to whatever agency they thought they were talking to. People are so easily scammed out there. Or it'd be someone that supposedly knows someone they're related to or knows their boss, and people fall for that. Luckily, we were trained at that store I worked for to look out for scams like this and to try and tell the people they're being scammed. And sometimes I would tell people you're probably being scammed, and they wouldn't listen. They would still want to buy the gift cards that they were clearly getting scammed for. So I hope people start to just pay more attention. Just pay more attention out there. One last story I want to talk about is a random story. I might start talking about more random stories when I get on my soapbox about this mother who saved up her child's child support from her father for 11 years so that she could give her all the money at once she was older. $48,000 given to this girl, Italy Milan Stanley, which the name's ridiculous. But I thought this was sweet of the mother. Of course, all these posts online saying, well, you really need to thank the father because it's his money. But if the mom was able to save up this money, that means she was able to use her own money for her child and then save up all this money for her child. which I think is sweet. I think both parents need to be commended. The mother for saving up all this money over time to give for her daughter. The father just for paying the child support in the first place, because a lot of fathers try not to do that. And other people saying, well, the dad shouldn't have paid all this money if she was just going to save it all. Like, that's just stupid. If the father was legally supposed to pay it, I'm glad the father paid it. But also, leave it to some trash fathers out there to try and act like the father paying all the money because it was just being saved is a bad thing. That's crazy to me. I think social media just does too much tearing apart when this is actually a nice story. It's nice to hear that both the mother and the father did the right thing despite being separated. Doesn't happen enough in our current society. And so I just wanted to put this story out there as something positive happening in the world where there's not a lot of positivity happening, with everyone getting scammed and all, people losing a lot of their jobs out there. There's still great stories out there. And I wish social media was used more for good than bad most of the time. But it isn't always used that way. That's all for my soapbox today. Thanks for listening.